Hi, everybody. It's Coach Rich G. Welcome to another podcast episode. Today, I have Mel from up in Canada, who is somebody that I've been working with for a couple of months now. I've followed her on Instagram and social media, and she is one of the most creative people I know. Absolutely amazing. And I'm really glad that she wanted to do this. She is, I'm going to say, the creator of the Intuitive Healing Garden, which she'll explain to you. But she does so many things, whether it's art or just clothes designs, skateboard designs. I mean, she's incredible. So I'll let her give you a little insight into what she is all about. Mel, what's going on? How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I create, and the Intuitive Healing Garden is essentially kind of where everything is plotted. So it's my website, which is still growing, but everything I create starts as a seed, and then it grows into art, poetry, and sometimes the seed is different. So sometimes the seed is art, sometimes it's poetry, sometimes it's a thought. But everything created eventually transitions into a flower. Like everything blooms and grows in the garden. So everything I create becomes a part of that. And it's hard to explain. It really is.
But that's okay. I mean, in the garden, I know it just from looking at your Instagrams and TikToks, it's fascinating. But what about the lemon? Tell me the story about the lemon and planting the seed, and what's that about?
Of the lemon. A few years ago, I'll start with that. I asked my husband, I exclaimed to my husband, I'm like, I want a lemon tree. And living in Canada, he was like, well, you can't have a lemon tree. It's way too cold here. And I was like, I can have a lemon tree. I can do whatever I want in life. Of course, that's me breaking all the rules. So I figured out how to, plant a lemon. Oh, but now I have a lemon tree. And from that lemon seed and that lemon tree that grew from it, I created a digital artwork, which is my lemons. And then from the lemons, there was a story, of course. So there was the blog post that explained the whole story about the lemon tree and me wanting to plant a lemon tree and what became of it. But when we think about plant alchemy, there's a lot more involved with planting a plant and taking care of it. Eventually that grew into that graphic design, which eventually grew into me wanting to meld those two together in a story. And when I was looking for hashtags to present that story into my TikTok videos, I found Bring Me Lemons, which is a hashtag used by a small group of people that are super awesome, that are all about positivity and kind of turning lemons into lemonade. And it was just kind of synchronistic in the sense that, oh, there's already Bring Me Lemons. And that brought me to meet Simon Bishop DNA. He's a great guy. He's been a huge inspiration into the push of the lemons, and I'll say the drive into the whole lemon story, because there was a lot of, I'll say, forecasting in my videos at the time that were kind of predicting the lemon story.
Very cool. And aren't your kids named after?
They're also named after flowers.
Right.
Yes, my children are named after flowers. It's one of those things. The garden started a few years ago when I created my website, but when I created the website, that's when I started to realize how much my entire life was kind of part of that garden.
That's fantastic. Now here's the first of a couple of questions from people who want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. The first question is, what makes you tick? Not talk, tick. What makes you tick, Mel?
Numbers. Yeah, like I'll say obsessions over numbers, synchronicities, occult knowledge, secret knowledge, or ancient knowledge, just knowledge, I guess. Yeah, I'm like addicted to knowledge. I'll say anything that's related to what we don't necessarily learn on the everyday or in school, or that you have to really dig deep, like cryptic knowledge.
Now, what about when you say numbers? Do you mean like 1, 2, 3, 4 means something and 7, 11 means something, things like that?
kind of, in a way. Everything is numbers. Frequency is numbers. Everything in the world is the frequency of math. It's not necessarily, some people are like, oh, 1111 means something to me.
Mhm.
It could be as odd as 1475, or, an odd number out of nowhere, because I'll say I read the numbers in a different way. It's more of a fascination with math and the magic that math brings.
Cool. All right, I got you. So next question. Are you always motivated to paint or draw?
This was a good question. I love this question. Yes and no, because I don't only paint and draw. I do poetry. I do other forms of art, and there's a big process involved with putting it all together. There's literature, there's meditation, there's healing. So no, I'm not always motivated to paint or draw, but that's often how I meditate. So if I'm stuck somewhere in my daily endeavors, that's when I'll be like, I need to paint and draw to turn my brain off so that I can focus better on what I'm doing daily. So it's kind of like part of the motivation, but it's not always what I'm actually aiming to be motivated to do.
I get it. That's a great explanation. That's really cool. That makes so much sense. I can relate to that 100%. Very, very good. The next question is, I gotta believe is, what or who is your muse for art?
There's a few. I have muses. I have many muses for art. Okay, so if I look at objects or things that I do or think of, often washing dishes is when poetry will come to me, surprisingly. However, there are people that trigger a certain level of spite or like passion or inspiration, and there are a few people that really drive me. And when I'm not there, or there's a sense that I need that, they're always there to kind of like poke at me to kind of really make sure that I'm always on the right path.
Before we go to the next question, I have to comment that is a cool shirt you have on. What's the deal with that? Did you design that?
This is my design.
Oh my God. Now, how does somebody buy that? Now, is that an actual sleeves? It's a shirt, right?
It's like an over.
Gotcha.
Like cheer over shirt.
That is spectacular. How do we get that? How do people buy that?
These are at Le Galeriste. My link is in my bio, is my best way to
So
put
anybody who wants a shirt like that, or that line of clothing, they can go to the link. Yeah, it's a cool shirt. It's maybe not for me, but I think it's a really cool shirt. Anyway, all right. Aside from your art, is there any other form you like?
Every form.
So give me an example. What else?
I'll say I love literature. I don't like reading. Like, I won't read a book, but I am areas of books. And I do enjoy gardening and, cleaning the house, renovating, DIYs. You know what? DIYs and renovating, I don't do that enough, but that's
right.
A deep, true passion of mine. We love to redecorate. I'm addicted to change in a way. So I'm always flipping my living room around, and then a month later, it's like, I got to change it again, or yeah.
That's awesome. So it doesn't get old. And the other thing about change, constant change, it's almost, I've studied Kaizen, which is the Japanese art of continual change. And I've applied it to even my coaching when I coach, for USA Hockey. I applied it. I actually speak to other coaches about trying to always be willing to constantly change and open yourself up to new disciplines and new practices and new ways of coaching people and games and so on and so forth. So I relate to that a great deal. In addition, now your art has been put on desks. What was that about? Real quick.
So there was a contest with autonomous dot. And I had just entered the competition to see if I could qualify, because I knew that not everybody would be able to participate. But I figured this is a challenge for myself. It was in the beginning of last year, and I just wanted to see if my art was worthy, in a sense. It was like a proof to self that you should continue doing art, because I was just kind of starting to expose my art. And I did qualify, and I got to paint a desk. And then there was a competition to vote on Instagram. So the most votes, the top 5 were the winners. I did not win, but they still reached out to me and asked me if they could feature my art on their desk. So ever since June, roughly, people can purchase an autonomous smart desk featuring my art. It's a
which you sold probably about 3, 4, 5 of them already, right?
Yes,
and they're not cheap. Those desks, pardon me, those desks are about $800 to $1,000 for Pete's sakes.
Yeah, they can be. You know what? Actually, I have compared the price to like that style of desk. It's a decent price for that type of desk. But yeah, there's been about 10 people who have purchased it so far, and I'm so thankful.
I love it. I love it. So people want to know, what's your favorite song?
This is really hard for me because I don't do favorites. I don't do, I'm so all loving that I'm like one song. There were a few that I wrote down that I'll say have impacted me over time. Different People from No Doubt was one that I really liked. I resonated with Just a Girl, but Different People was the one that made me open my eyes to how the differences between people are what makes us magical and, interesting. And that's what makes us capable. Like, who would want to sit with a person identical to themselves? Nobody.
That's cool.
But as for one, there's no one favorite song.
Okay. So then, since there's no one favorite song, favorite band, then you...
It's a million.
I know, right? That's a tough question.
A lot of the music I like is actually really underground and not so well known. So like, I don't even like, I'd have to re-listen to them. But okay, if I go back in time, favorite of all time as a teenage girl, Tupac.
Tupac, my man. There you go.
I never idolized anybody. I never had like one of those like famous crushes as a child, but Tupac, yeah, always.
Searching for Black Jesus. He's one of my favorites too. That's funny. Definitely, he was very, very, very deep and very creative. Okay, so we are almost, well, we're not out of questions, but we're running out of time. So here's a question that I love. How many UFOs have you seen?
This is one of those things that I'm like, technically 3, but I can like find explanations and theories for all 3. What's fun though is that each time I'm never alone. So it's not like I'm like, oh, I saw a UFO. It's more like I'm like nudging my husband. I'm like, you see that, right? He's like, yeah, I see that. And we're like, are you sure you see that? You see that? And there's even been one time where my mom was nearby and we were like, Mom, can you come here, please? Can you come outside? And can you see that too? But yeah, we've had a few weird, I'll say traveling lights that move around in different directions all at once and then eventually just zoom by and weird things, but only 3 times. And I think it was twice here where we live. And once it was in Montreal where we used to live, but not while we were living there, while we were visiting. So yeah.
Très bien. Good old Montreal. Oh, that's good. So three UFO sightings. You're lucky that you saw them with somebody. That's what's really cool.
There's always that validation, right?
That's awesome. All right, last question. And here, this is one of my staples here. Last question. What question do you wish we asked you today?
God. I don't know.
Yeah, I like that question. What's that one question? What's that one thing that you'd like to answer about yourself? Or what's that one thing that you want the audience to know about you?
Well, I think things that people should know about me is that I know a lot more than I lead to believe. I play dumb sometimes on purpose because there's so many, I don't know. You're
Okay.
caught off guard. I'm like, one question?
Mel, you know what? I think the answer is that you're very modest. Okay. You're very modest and you don't realize at times exactly how creative, how powerful and how inspiring and full of energy you are. And my hope for you is that as you get more and more comfortable, right, with what you bring to the table, we all who listen to you and admire you are going to be enlightened tremendously. So that's really the answer to my question. You're the best, really. So thank you so much. I'm sure we're going to do this again and again, and it's been great.